Hi, everyone, and thank you all for joining us today for our webinar on reopening the workplace for COVID-19 recovery with ArcGIS Indoors. First, let us introduce ourselves. My name is Silvia Pichler, and I'm a Product Marketing Manager for ArcGIS Indoors. With me today are Andy Stewart, Smart City Solutions Engineer, and Bo Rick, Smart City Solutions Manager for ArcGIS Indoors. So if we take a look at today's agenda, what can you expect from this webinar? First, we want to give you a good overview over space planning and why it is so important for a successful COVID-19 recovery. Next, we're going to show you in more detail what the application of indoor space planning capabilities can look like with a live demonstration. Then, of course, we also want to talk more about how the system works and how you as a user can get started with ArcGIS Indoors. For the end of this webinar, we're planning to open up a discussion and answer your questions. And that also brings me to a couple of housekeeping items I would like to address before we start. The first point is Q&A. You're welcome to ask us anything you'd like to know at any time during the session. You can do that via the control panel, where you should be able to see a tab that says questions. Just type in your comments or questions and hit send, and we will try to answer as many of them as possible during the Q&A. Secondly, I wanted to mention that we will be launching a few polls during this webinar to learn a bit more about you. It's always interesting for us to hear from you and get your valuable feedback, so we'd really appreciate if you could participate. And last but not least, because that question always comes up, will this webinar be recorded? Yes. So in case we're moving too fast or you cannot stay for the full hour, don't worry. You'll receive the video via email tomorrow, so you can watch it again at your convenience. And with that said, I'd like to actually launch our first poll. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. So we would like to know from you, is your organization already actively planning for the reopening of their facilities? Please select one of the options given on the screen. I'm going to give you some time to answer. And it seems like most people answered, so I'm going to go ahead and close the poll and share the results. And it seems like more than 60% are already preparing for opening their facilities again. That's good to know. Thanks everyone for participating. So now I'd say let's jump right into the webinar, and I will hand it over to Bo.
Thanks, Sylvia. And really interesting to see some of the results of that poll. We know that a lot of people have begun to plan to re-enter their facilities. And that's what brings us all here today. However unfortunate the circumstances might have been in the past that have led us to this point, we have been actually actively engaged with a number of our GIS users to learn how they're supporting their facilities and real estate teams in the planning to the reentry of their facilities. And, you know, I think it's worth noting that things have really rapidly evolved over the last 6 to 7 months. Many of the organizations that we're working with that occupy dozens or even hundreds of facilities have completely transitioned to working from home, which has left entire portfolios unoccupied for months and has restricted access to secure environments and information that some employees need to fully perform their duties. But now, as we are engaged with these customers, many of them are planning to enable certain employees to re-enter their facilities in phases of a reopening. And unfortunately, as we've seen in numerous studies, sharing indoor space is a major SARS-CoV-2 infection risk. And while organizations are faced with many important decisions as recovery efforts are underway, perhaps the most important question of all is how do they prioritize the employee health and safety in their facility reentry plans? And those companies must properly plan how their indoor space is used to ensure safety and security of their employees. Yet that data that they do use often is limited or siloed in different parts of the organization. and also time consuming for them to process. And at the end of the day, the solutions that they have been working with were really only short term, which left stakeholders disconnected and occupants, those most important people in the facility at reentry plans, as an afterthought. So these task forces, what we've learned from them is that they ultimately need a common platform for them to visualize, analyze, and share new plans to ensure the health and safety of mission critical employees. And space planning for COVID-19 recovery with ArcGIS Indoors leverages a set of tools that help organizations modernize their floor plan data management, facilitate that better planning across their portfolio of facilities, and engage with occupants involved in new seating arrangements and protocols. It's a SaaS offering that's easy to deploy and simple to use with as many secure user identities as needed so that everyone across the organization can be in the loop on how their organization is recovering from COVID-19. So what are some of the things that we've learned from these organizations? First of all, they're heavily dependent on CAD drawings, and they're looking to modernize their floor plan data management with indoor mapping. Indoor maps give them the ability to securely access and visualize spaces across every floor plan across the facility or the portfolio in just a few clicks. These indoor maps can be configured to represent seat safety or occupancy by person or business unit, return phase, or any other attribute of the unit. And they can use these visualizations to help their task forces easily see who's assigned to sit where, to better engage stakeholders in the decision-making process. Ultimately, they're operationalizing their CAD or BIM for reuse across the space planning process in the COVID-19 recovery effort. Next, we also see them eliminating tedious individual analysis of each seat across every floor. Our ArcGIS Indoors tools are being configured to their organization's preferred social distance measures and running them on every seat on every floor, improving the speed of safety analysis. And they're further refining these analyses by running them on specific space types or other attributes such as an occupant's business unit, tenure, or return phase. And they're using these analyses to reassign occupants to safe seats in order to ensure their health and safety. Additionally, we've learned that these stakeholders face some challenges when it comes to operationalizing these plans because there can often be conflicts of interest or organizational priorities throughout this process. And so they're using GIS to provide web-based visualizations of floor plans and safety analyses in the space move process to improve communications of where conflicts of social distance measures are and make the most critical space moves first. They're even using these indoor maps to show where flexible space could allow employees to reserve safe seats on a rolling basis or only on specific days of the week. And this increased transparency is helping show everyone that employee health and safety is the top priority and ensuring the successful implementation of these new protocols. Then they're actually engaging with the occupants around these new protocols with end user applications that help them get more comfortable and confident in their new workspaces. As the most important stakeholders in the reopening of facilities, occupants can access new workplace maps that help them understand the new configuration of their facilities. These web and mobile apps are showing updated seating arrangements, location of wellness stations, or other workspace availability, offering the ability to book safe workspaces and conference rooms or request sanitation to specific locations. Ultimately, we see that these internal memos and bulletins are simply not enough to make such a big transition. Finally, due to improved employee happiness and productivity, flexible work from home policies have long been on the rise. With the opportunity to adapt space strategies that enable better space utilization and access to new talent pools, organizations that are making updates to their own long-term protocols are keeping employees safe in the near term and differentiating themselves to be more competitive or continue to lead their industries and employee experience for the long term. With this solution, organizations are not only delivering a solution that offers value in the near term, they're also creating a solution that will drive valuable employee interactions for years after COVID-19 recovery concludes. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Andy Stewart, who's going to show you all what these capabilities look like in action. Over to you, Andy.
Thanks, Bill. Awesome. So thanks for explaining all that, Bill. I really appreciate it. Hey, everyone. So my name is Andy Stewart, and I'm going to be doing some demonstrations today to overview how to return to the workplace. So in this demonstration, I'll show how you can visualize social distancing analysis on an indoors map, develop spatial plans that meet social distancing requirements, allow employees to reserve safe workspaces when they come back to work, and I'll provide a way for employees to have the ability to submit work orders for locations that may require cleaning and sanitation. We'll start by looking at the ArcGIS Indoors web viewer application that lets you visualize data for your facilities on an indoor floorware maps. These maps give you a central system of record for all of your facilities. Here I'm looking at Esri's main campus. By selecting a particular facility, I can get an interior view of the floor plan. I can toggle between floors and see every office and cubicle in the building. The indoor viewer also incorporates other types of data. For example, you can use analysis tools in ArcGIS Pro provided with ArcGIS Indoors to analyze social distancing parameters when you want to visualize the results in the ArcGIS Indoors web viewer application. Here we've generated a 6-foot buffer around the location of the open office cubicles in the marketing wing, which is shown in blue. This represents the minimum social distancing zone needed for employees to safely occupy each cubicle. We've also generated in red the overlaps where the areas of concern that show where cubicles have social distancing conflicts. Using the results from the social distancing analysis that you're currently seeing in the ArcGIS Indoors web viewer application, we can make informed decisions about how to reassign employees to make sure everyone has a safe workspace. To do this, we'll leverage the ArcGIS Indoors Space Planner application. This web application allows you, as the user, to use indoor maps and data to visualize and manage space throughout your facilities. Like the Indoors viewer, I can bring results for the spatial analysis into my map. By highlighting the areas, such as you're seeing with the office cubicles in red and blue, we can visualize and understand where people should properly be assigned to certain locations. We'll center our attention on this particular area in the marketing building. Particularly, we're in Building L on the first floor, and we want to make sure that we assign individuals to the proper space. To do that, we'll go to people that are currently not assigned to any locations. So I'll go ahead and select the people. I'll filter for the individuals that are currently working in the marketing department but don't have a location to sit at. As you can see, I have 5 individuals. I want to place at least 2 of them in the proper location to follow social distancing guidelines. To do that, I'll go ahead and turn off my analysis and ensure they're actually located in the right location to follow social distancing guidelines. All I have to do is drag and drop them into the right location. As you can see, from dragging and dropping them into the desk, the open workspace cubicle, you can see here that it's allowing me to assign that individual to that particular desk. As soon as I click assign, Alexandra Parr is now assigned to that desk. I'll do the same exact example for Brandon White. I'll take Brandon White and I'll drag and drop him into the right location following social distancing guidelines. As you can see, it prompted me once again, and I can assign Brandon White to this location. And as soon as I do that, it removes them from the unassigned individuals to a currently assigned location that's following social distancing guidelines. Say if we want to actually create an office hotel and that follows social distancing guidelines. Office hoteling is where you have the ability to, as an end user, focus on a location that you want for office hoteling for individuals to walk into the workplace and reserve a desk for a given time of day. To do that, I'm going to go ahead and select my hotel. I'm going to add a new hotel and call it Marketing Hotel, since this is the marketing building. As soon as I add this marketing hotel area, I'm going to assign desks that are following the social distancing guidelines based on the 6-foot buffers and the red, which is representing social distancing conflicts. What I'll do first is come down here to my cursor, and I'll select the desk that follows social distancing guidelines. As soon as I do that, and I have all the desks selected using my cursor, I come down here to Assign To, and I select that hotel area, that newly created marketing hotel area. As soon as I assign these desks to this location, you'll see it populated over here, giving me some facts and reporting in regards to the number of people that can actually sit in the location of 8 units. In addition, I can see the total net square footage of the usable space for the office hotel units. Next, I want to assign individuals to the proper marketing hotel area. Earlier, I was querying for those individuals that were working in the marketing hotel. So I'm going to use and leverage those individuals that are currently working, that are currently unassigned, and assign them to that marketing hotel area. That way, these individuals can walk into the location and reserve a desk for a given time of day. What I'll do for these individuals is come here to Assign To, select the hotel area, and select my marketing hotel. As soon as I do that, these individuals are now assigned to that marketing hotel area. I can come back to my hotels button and see those individuals now in the marketing hotel area. Now, I want to act as the end user coming into the workspace to reserve a desk for a given time of day while following social distancing guidelines. So what I'll do now is I'll show my ArcGIS Indoors mobile application. What you now currently see on your screen is the ArcGIS Indoors mobile application. Very similar to what the ArcGIS Indoors web viewer application was showing, and the ArcGIS Indoors Space Planner application, you have floor awareness between different floors. So you can toggle between floors and visualize the floor plan, separating between cubicles that you want to see on that particular floor plan. Coming back to the first floor, I want to be able to select a hotel area that's following social distancing guidelines for today. What I'll do first is come to my hotel button. What I want to do is I want to filter for some information. In particular, I want to filter for the space type and set it as an office cubicle. I want the area to be marketing hotel. And I want to apply this filter. As soon as it loads the available desks for today, I'll have a list of the actual cubicles I can use and leverage to actually book for today. For this example, we can actually see that the one that I added for this hotel area in Space Planner reflects over here in the ArcGIS Indoors mobile application. So it simultaneously updated the information in my mobile application. I'll go ahead and select this desk for today. Acting as the employee walking into the space, I notice that this desk is actually very dirty and it needs to be sanitized. Therefore, I want to be able to launch a work order to have a custodian come in and clean this workspace. To do that, I'll come here to my More button and I'll launch a request asking for sanitation. As soon as I launch this work order, it's going to ask me to sign into my organization. I'll go ahead and go through my authentication into my organization to permit me to actually creating a Survey 123 for this work order. An additional component of being able to launch work orders is using third-party systems. ArcGIS Indoors can integrate with IBM Maximo, Tririga, ServiceNow, and CityWorks to launch third-party applications to create work orders any type of work order, such as this one for sanitation. For the purpose of this demonstration, I'm launching to Survey 123 to show creating a sanitational work order. I'll set the assignment type to sanitation. I'll set the status as assigned since this is a newly created work order. I'll make sure the priority is critical because we really want this work order to be fulfilled in a timely fashion. I'll say this work order is a cleaning issue, so cleaning equipment. Particularly, I want the desk to be cleaned. And I'll set the work order type as a sanitational work order. And for any other survey, you would want to have a due date to make sure this work order is fulfilled on time. So I'll set it to be for this Friday, and let's put it at 8:30 a.m. I can choose an image of the work order so that the custodian can have reference to the actual location of where the work order is happening. So I can easily select the work order by coming to my photos and selecting the work order. I can take an image of the work order if I have to. So for the purpose of the demonstration, I'll go ahead and take a picture of my desk, seeing that it's very cluttered and it has some actual problems with it, such as it needs sanitation. And you can see the information regarding that building unit, floor, and room has come into the survey, making it easily accessible to pinpoint the actual location of where that work order is being submitted. As soon as this work order is submitted, I'll receive a notification prompting me saying that the work order has been submitted. And now you can see that screen saying that my data has been successfully sent. Now what I'll do is I'll come back to my ArcGIS Indoors mobile application. I'll go into my Explore panel and look for that newly created work order. I'll join my work orders. I'll select sanitation. And we can see that sanitation of the desk right here at the top. 0 minutes ago, it was just created. And we can also see the location of the icon on top of the desk's location, allowing it to make easier accessibility for any custodian coming into the workplace to understand where that work order is happening. So coming back to the employee trying to reserve a desk for office hoteling, I want to find a desk that actually fits my needs and is clean. So I'll just come back here to my office hotel button, and I'll look for another desk that would fulfill my type of daily activities. So I'll go ahead and select this particular desk. It's a little bit further away from that other desk, so it's probably more sanitized. And I'll come here to the book button. I'll look at the confirmation request here. Following the details, I'll want to confirm this request for this desk so I can walk into the building and have this desk reserved for me, while also following social distancing guidelines if other employees come into the workspace to book a location nearby. So as soon as this request has been submitted, I'll receive an email notifying me that the request has been accepted. Once this has been accepted, I know that I can walk into the location of this desk and have it bookable for the entire day. Coming back to the ArcGIS Indoors mobile application, another great component is being able to find a conference room and book it all within the ArcGIS Indoors mobile application. So I can scroll in and scroll out using my fingers to visualize this floor plan map. I noticed that some of these conference rooms are kind of small. It wouldn't fit the capacity for a particular event that I'm having later on throughout the day. So I can pan to another location and find a conference room that actually fits in with a capacity rating that follows social distancing guidelines. In particular, I noticed that this conference room looks kind of large. I'll go ahead and select it. Using my finger, I selected that conference room, and I can pull up the information regarding it. Here we can see the capacity is 35. This is well off for the amount of people that I have for the event that I have ongoing. I only have 10 individuals coming in today for this event. So all I have to do now is come up here to my schedule button and schedule for this event to take place. I'll use the plus button right here to create a new event. And I'll just call this a marketing event since I was coming from the marketing building. What I'll do is I'll have the event start in about 2 minutes at 9:30 to 10. And as soon as I add that event, I'll receive a notification via email notifying me that this conference room has been reserved for today in this particular location. Currently, you see the hashes representing that the the actual notification is coming through my Exchange server, working with my email to notify me. A solid bar would represent me actually booking this space for today. So for this demonstration, I was able to demo visualizing social distancing analysis on an indoors map, developing spatial plans that meet social distancing requirements, allowing employees to reserve safe workspaces when they come back to work, and providing employees the ability to submit work orders for locations that may require cleaning and sanitation. I hope these demonstrations were helpful. I'll hand it back over to you, Bo.
I'm actually going to launch
Sylvia.
our next poll. Sorry about that. So we would like to know from you, what does your organization see as the biggest challenge or challenges for reopening the workplace? This is a multiple choice, so you can choose one or more answers. And I'm going to go ahead and close the poll and share the results. All right, and it seems like well split up. So most of the people say that they don't have enough data to make informed decisions. Also, almost 40% say that they don't have the right resources or enough resources to plan and execute, while others don't have access to the technology, or maybe there may be other reasons. All right, thanks everyone for participating. I'll try to hand it over to Bo again. We were having some technical issues, so I apologize.
All right. So thanks everyone for bearing with us. A little bit of technical difficulties, but we'll keep moving along. So we'll just dive right into how it works. So currently you were able to see a demonstration of what I was showing you in an ArcGIS Indoors Space Planner application, an ArcGIS Indoors Web Viewer application. Now I'm going to explain how it actually came together. So now what you currently see on your screen is CAD data. CAD data is the source of building out your ArcGIS Indoors information model so that we can have it hosted in the ArcGIS Indoors Web Viewer application, ArcGIS Indoors mobile application, and the ArcGIS Indoors Web Viewer application. So typically it's delivered in DWG formats. That's a traditional representation of as-built data. But what we currently see is that a lot of challenges are faced with having CAD data. In particular, we see that the drawings that are as-built typically don't represent what the model should show. Sometimes we do see a lot of times that the information, the attribution for the floor plan data is lacking important information to communicate with the users and can communicate with any organizational purposes. There's a lack of multiple user editing, which can be inefficient if you're not able to share a web application or a mobile application with a colleague who needs to understand the information. And an additional component is that singular floor plan view is it's not going to be leveraged in any 3D format. It's not able to actually help the actual end user experience what they need to see for their model.
All right, thank you so much, Andy, for taking over. I hear that Bo is back online, so I think we can switch back over to him. Bo, are you here?
Sure am. Wouldn't be
Awesome.
a recovery webinar if there wasn't an exciting issues with our IT. Fantastic. Thanks for stepping in there, Andy. And I'm not sure quite exactly what I missed, but it sounded like you got into some of the details on some of the issues that our customers are facing when it comes to using CAD drawings for space planning. Can you all see my screen?
I can see it, yes.
Great. So why don't we pick up there? I think the thing that we've learned from a number of our customers is that one of the big challenges with DWGs or DGN formats that are delivered is that they typically represent as-built information. And I think Andy was alluding to this, suggesting that that means they're failing to represent what the current conditions are when you're actually trying to put some of these plans in place in the space planning process. And that is at least in part due to the fact that they lack a back-end database that can help drive symbology or annotation, or also supporting feature relationships that can be queried or analyzed. And without that database, they also lack support for the multi-user editing environment that would be required to keep those drawings current throughout the operations and maintenance lifecycle, and instead require the completion of different projects to bring those data formats back up to date. And additionally, they are rarely stored in a way that supports efficient and secure access. So organizations take on the cost of avoiding and mitigating the delay of data sharing throughout the planning lifecycle. And finally, whether organizations are making efforts to prevent these issues, the data deliverables also tend to be limited in scope and flexibility, and tend to result in multiple custom requests that are required before a productive view can be delivered. So that said, I think we're actually quite fortunate in the sense that when we started on the journey of building ArcGIS Indoors, this was one of the core problems that we were aiming to solve with the technology, is to operationalize CAD and BIM for these different business processes. So we can visualize 2D and 3D floor plans in the context of their real-world location, in addition to operational data layers from other business systems, by translating those drawings of many floors across many buildings into a single geodatabase that we can use to then symbolize space by things like you saw in the demonstration, such as seat safety or occupancy by person or business unit or return phase or any other attribute. And then with those up-to-date persona-driven views of the building information, organizations can better enable their reopening task forces and better engage with their occupants in that return to the office. So in order to implement a system like this, let's talk about the high-level architecture in the context of an implementation process. The first step is really a cloud-first deployment, which that approach rapidly offers these capabilities for your COVID recovery task forces. The next is loading the floor plan data, and it has a potential to be a time-consuming task, but the standard data model and a network of partners enables this data to be loaded fairly affordably. Third, your organization will want a set of maps configured to illustrate some key information. And the ones that we've seen most commonly tend to be the current workplace configuration for the occupants to quickly adapt to this new environment, the analysis of seat safety for better space planning, and the location of sanitation requests for faster service delivery on those. And after the maps are configured, the space planning, sanitation management, and occupant engagement apps can be configured for the end users. And finally, typically we are helping customers get started. When we're helping customers get started with this, a technical enablement workshop can enable the stakeholders to learn how to use and maintain the solution themselves. And given the current situation, many organizations are in the midst of answering some very important questions for a lot of people. So what would the next steps to get started with space planning for COVID-19 recovery look like? First, the solution can be rapidly deployed in the cloud through Esri's ArcGIS Online with as many user types as needed. That said, the user types do support information security, so it's important to understand who in your organization should get which type. Those that are loading, managing, or analyzing floor plan data would get GIS professional user types. Those you want to be able to submit or update sanitation requests would get an editor user type. And those you simply want to be able to view data in floor-aware indoor map viewers can have viewer user types. There's no additional charge for the user types since the software is licensed per square foot. So you can imagine a planning process with democratized data among all of the stakeholders. And for organizations familiar with supporting geospatial applications and cloud-friendly policies, the ability to get started overnight is a reality, especially in the case where clean, up-to-date CAD is available. In other scenarios, customers can benefit from implementation services that can help deploy an on-premise solution, or load or capture current floor plan conditions, or train their employees to load and manage the data themselves. And in a few cases, we've been working on delivering custom solutions on-premise or in a hosted environment, managing the conversion and collection of floor plan data, and enabling the ongoing maintenance of the system. In the event that you need assistance getting started, not only is Esri here to help, but there are also a number of ArcGIS Indoors specialty partners that are ready to assist in a variety of services. Whether you need reality capture services for up-to-date indoor maps, CAD and Revit deliverables from partners like IndoorView, Trimble, or R&K Solutions, or deployment and enablement services from one of our many implementation partners around the world. Our implementation partners represent some of the most advanced indoor mapping organizations with a mix of strong geospatial and facilities and engineering practices. And in some cases, like R&K Solutions or IndoorView, these partners are capable of providing end-to-end implementations from reality capture to application configuration. And in other cases, Esri collaborates with these partners to ensure the success of our mutual customers. That said, getting started with COVID recovery and ArcGIS Indoors solutions really just starts with space management. But as you saw, even in this solution, there are various ways that the technology can support operations, and specifically around sanitation management, as you saw in Andy's demonstration. And in other cases, we've seen customers very interested in the ability to track and trace certain visitors to their facilities throughout this COVID-19 recovery process, to be able to understand when people come in within a certain proximity of one another to identify potential transmission events or prevent them from happening in the first place. And then finally, using that information to help manage the flow of traffic through a facility. All of these are additional capabilities that are being delivered to organizations that are getting started with space planning. So with that, I think I'll turn it over to you, Sylvia, for our third and final poll.
Yes, thanks, Bo. And for our third and final poll question, we would like to know if you would be interested in a one-on-one session with one of our experts to discuss how Esri can help you on the COVID-19 recovery process. Please let us know. I'll give you some time to vote. Thanks, everyone, and we'll make sure to reach out to everyone who answered with yes.
Great, thanks, Sylvia. And I think we will open up now for a little Q&A. We have about 13 minutes left, and just while you're typing your questions into the tray, just also note you can find additional resources or information on these solutions on our product page, go.esri.com/indoors, and you can also follow us on social media to learn more about how we're working with different customers on these solutions.
All right, I think we can start with the first question already. Somebody asked, do we need ArcGIS Enterprise to use ArcGIS Indoors?
Good question. I think, and we did note this in a couple of the different topics throughout our discussion here today, but with the more recent release of ArcGIS Indoors, it is available in ArcGIS Online. So the ability to deploy these capabilities virtually overnight is very much a possibility. And so you do not necessarily need ArcGIS Enterprise in order to get started with ArcGIS Indoors capabilities.
All right, thank you. Then there's another question for Andy. So it's, what is the cumulative setup time for Indoors as shown in the demo, approximately? Can you give us an estimate on that?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it definitely depends on the type of data you're getting started with. But with decent up-to-date CAD, this really could be a very quick turnaround. Obviously, with the folks we've been working with, they're prioritizing facilities for reopening. So those that have potentially secure environments or secure information that employees want access to, or have sort of a mission critical component to them, or where they're looking at their first phase of their reopening. And as a result, you know, the effort to load the data for you know, a very small subset of facilities can be far less than trying to load an entire portfolio all at once. So I think, you know, the reality is that getting the applications that you saw Andy use today configured, because they are all off-the-shelf configurable capabilities, pretty quickly is very much a reality. And I would say, you know, a few weeks tops, depending on the quality of the data. But you know, in some cases, we've seen people get started with these things in less than a day or two. So it entirely depends on you know, time that you have, the quality of the data, and maturity with GIS capabilities.
Awesome, thank you. I have another question maybe for Andy. Somebody wants to know if the survey that you were showing in for the work order management, if that is the same one that we use for Indoors.
So it's survey 123. So with ArcGIS Indoors licensing, you get survey 123. Correct me if I'm wrong, Bill. And we have the ability to integrate third-party systems that can launch work orders. So survey 123 was what I was demonstrating today, but you have the ability to app launch to work orders for CityWorks, ServiceNow, IBM Maximo, and Tririga. And these platforms could also be leveraged in what I just showed and demonstrated in the mobile application today.
All right, thank you. Another question, I think we can maybe do one or two more. What can we look for in our CAD floor plans to determine if our data is in good condition? Can somebody talk to that?
Yeah,
great.
Did
Go
you want
ahead,
me to
Andy.
take that? Oh, okay.
Yeah, you're the expert.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're also an expert. So the five actual components that we usually look at are, does the CAD data have annotation? Particularly, do you label out what each room type is, use type is? Is it a conference room? Is it an office space? CAD data that has annotation like that is really helpful for running into the Indoors information model. An additional component is the CAD data topologically clean? Do you have walls and polylines snap to one another? Are doors snapped to interior walls? Are the exterior walls, the exterior boundaries, making up the actual exterior, what the boundary would look like for the building? Because we would actually extract the data, the CAD data, and that would be loaded into a GIS feature layer called levels and facilities. And then an additional component would be unique unit ID attribution or annotation. So typically rooms have unique IDs that would basically label out what an organization needs to see for that room. So when they're searching for it, they're cataloging for that room, they need to have a quick way of searching for it if they already know it off the top of their head. And one way to do that is having a unique ID for each room. And CAD data sometimes has that, sometimes it doesn't, but it's very important for having it in the Indoors information model.
Awesome, thank you. And I think we can do more. Let me just go through the questions. Okay, I got one more. So somebody wants to know, can the conference room scheduling tool show social distancing capacity for each conference room?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can just handle that if you want, if you'd like, Andy, and then if I miss anything, you just let me know. But I think the reality is that the conference rooms, or any unit for that matter, have a capacity measure, which is typically the number of people that can fit in that room by its square foot area. And in case of COVID-19 recovery, we have seen organizations recalculating those capacities across those units by lowering that ratio of people per square foot. And so effectively, you're really just creating a new attribute of the unit's layer in the GIS, so that you have this new capacity attribute that can be used to even drive symbology on the maps to show new unit visualized units by their capacities, as well as even potentially label them by the number of people that could fit in those different spaces safely. Did I miss anything on that, Andy?
No, that's exactly what I was going to say.
Cool.
Awesome. Well, I see that we have quite a couple more questions, but I'm afraid we cannot answer all of them in this webinar. So we're coming to our end, but we'll make sure to follow up with everyone individually after this webinar.
Great. Thanks, Sylvia. And yeah, we will definitely look to follow up with any of you all asked questions that didn't get answered here today. We'll look to follow up with you individually and make sure that you get your questions answered. But until then, thank you all so much for joining us, and have a safe and happy rest of the week.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.